Hello, and welcome to the Monday of Easter week. What I'm concentrating on this week is the sort of build up to Easter, to the events that happened to Jesus, to his disciples, and everything. And today I'm going to concentrate on Judas Iscariot. And I got my helper here, Delith. Do you know who Judas was, Delith?
Yeah.
Can you tell me who you remember? No, anything you remember about Judas?
He was Jesus' friend, but then he betrayed him.
Did you hear that? He was Jesus' friend, but then he betrayed him. That's a really good way of putting it. What do you mean he betrayed him, though?
So he told the Roman soldiers where he was, and then they arrested him.
That's right. So Judas is one of the 12 disciples, one of the original 12. We've got that saying of me, oh, you're a bit of a Judas, you've gone behind somebody's back. And he did. You're right, Derek. He went, when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane after the Passover meal, he told the Romans, didn't he, where Jesus was? Yeah, and so he betrayed his friend, and subsequently Jesus got arrested and crucified, which isn't very nice, is it? He's not a very good friend, is he? But I think he did feel guilty afterwards, didn't he? Yeah, so, but this is the thing. When we think of Judas, this is what we remember. We remember him giving up his friend for, some money, basically. This person who he'd spent 3 years with, isn't it? He spent 3 years with Jesus, learning and seeing all these amazing things that Jesus did. And he betrayed him. Now, Jesus, of course, knew this was going to happen. But nonetheless, it doesn't make it any less good or any better. It doesn't make it any better. It shouldn't have happened. He shouldn't have done it. Thank you, Delith, for your help. Are you staying or are you going?
Yeah.
Okay. So, our gospel reading today is taken from the book of John, and it's John chapter 12, verses 1 to 11. And I'll read it to us. Then, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, who had been dead, whom he had raised from the dead. There they made him a supper, and Martha served, but Lazarus was one of those who sat at the table with him. Then Mary took a pound of very costly oil and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, who would betray him, said, "Why was this fragrant oil not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" Then he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the money box, and he used to take what was put in it. But Jesus said, "Let her alone. She has kept this for the day of my burial. For the poor you have with you always, but me you do not always have." Now a great many of the Jews knew that he was there, and they came, not for Jesus' sake only, but that they might also see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. But the chief priests plotted to put Lazarus to death also, because on account of him many of the Jews went away and believed in Jesus. Now, we're all familiar with this gospel story where Mary, Lazarus' sister, instead of helping her sister serve and be the host as the women did at the time, she spent her time pouring out a lot of oil onto Jesus's feet, and she, shock horror, uncovered her hair, which she would have worn a veil over the top, and used her hair to wash Jesus. Now, Judas's problem with this, or on first glance, Judas's problem with this was that he says, "Why are you wasting all this oil? The amount it would have taken like a year's wage to pay for all this oil. This could have been better spent on the poor." Which you think, well, actually, he's got a point. I don't know why Jesus didn't think of that. But then we find out that Judas was actually, because he was the keeper of the purse then for all the disciples and for Jesus, he would obviously take the money out of it without them knowing. So he would have stolen the money basically under their noses. And it got me thinking about these characters within the Bible. We're so familiar with reading the Bible. We know about these people. But do we really think of them anything other than characters in a story? These people were all real people. They all existed. So what actually went on in their minds? What were they thinking at the time? And that's what I want to sort of focus on today, is the deeper meaning, looking past them as being just characters in a story, just looking behind and seeing what the real person might have been thinking, or what their motives were, or why these things were happening to them. Now, I found, this isn't my work, so I can't take credit for it, but I found a really lovely book where they're reflections, but it's of a person. It's basically, you sort of go into the person's mind and you sort of live it in their head to see what they might have thought. It's obviously, we can't tell what these people would have thought, you know, we weren't there. But it's just an idea to really think about these people's frames of mind at the time. And it's the start of such a poignant week and such a thought-provoking week. And the person I wanted to focus on today was Judas Iscariot. Now, the part for me that I do want to concentrate on from the Gospel reading is this part. So I'll read this little section again. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief, and he kept the common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Now, if you want to, close your eyes as I'm reading this, but this is going into the mind of Judas. All right, so my motives were mixed. More about my pockets than the needs of the poor. But I had a point, didn't I? Give me that. Remember, that perfume of Mary's was expensive stuff. Not just the price of a couple of days' wages, but something you'd have to save up for over weeks or even months. Think of the difference it could have made to people's lives. The food it could have put on someone's table. The clothes on a child's back. And there she was, pouring it out in one sentimental gesture. The whole lot wasted in an instant. It was criminal, reckless. That's how I saw it. And if she saw no better use for it, then, believe me, I did. But far from reprimanding her as I expected, Jesus turned on me as though I were the one in the wrong. What was wrong with the man? Didn't he care about the poor? Of course he did, more than anyone. But he understood, even if no one else did, that to help them, to help anyone, he had to first face death. And Mary, unwittingly, was anointing his body for burial, brought about by my hand. He cared all right, as I came finally, but too late to understand. Not just for the poor, but for you, me, and everyone. Even as lousy a wretch as me. Enough to give his all, to make real change possible in our broken world. The question is, do we really care in turn? And for all my protestations, all my seeming concern, the sad truth is that to my shame, I didn't. You can see there, when you look into the thoughts that might have gone through Judas's head, that actually his initial thought was himself and using the money that he could have, been used for something else. But I like the bit where he points out, actually, I came to the realisation that Jesus did care about all these things, but it was too late for me. We always think about Judas as this character who betrayed Jesus, but we never really think about the point after, when he felt so guilty that he took his own life. And I think to myself, he wasn't innocent. Of course he wasn't. Look what he did. But is there a teaching behind this? Are we innocent? Are any of us innocent in our own lives? Okay, we may not have betrayed Jesus, but actually, we do betray Jesus. We betray Jesus all the time. We sell out Jesus every single time we turn away from him. Every time we do things that we shouldn't do. Every time we tell people that, oh no, I don't believe in Jesus, or we turn away from him, or we do something wrong, or we sin then. Every single time we do that, we sell Jesus out, just as Judas did. So who are we to judge? We can't judge anybody. None of us are innocent. The only person that was innocent was Jesus. So I'm just going to leave you with that thought. But we're out here saying, oh, Judas was this terrible person and that's how he's going to be remembered. But actually, are any of us any better? I'm just going to finish with a prayer. If you'd like to close your eyes, bow your head. Loving Lord, teach us to give generously to others and to you. To use the resources you put at our disposal in your service, striving in some small way to build a better world, bringing your kingdom closer here on earth. Help us to love you more truly, reaching out where we can to those in need. Through responding to them, may we also respond to you. Amen. Amen.